Right, we're going to go ahead and get started. And Jane and I would like to welcome everyone for coming out in this lovely evening and for everyone with us on live stream. This is our 9th of 12 sessions on the elections process here in Virginia Beach. I'd like to acknowledge we have Councilwoman Roush with us tonight. And thank you so much, Councilwoman, for being here. And she has something. I am Charnel Hearing, and with me is Jane Dittmar. We are with the Weldon Cooper Center, and we are teaming up with your city to facilitate tonight's meeting. Just a couple of housekeeping items. The restrooms are out the door to your right and immediate right, and it's toward the end of this hall behind you. We ask that you keep your cell phones off or at least on vibrate. If you need to take a call, you could take it outside so we can all hear each other. Now I will turn it over to Jane.
As Charnel said, we are your facilitators tonight. Our role is to make sure your voice is heard and that what you say is captured. And also to keep the meeting on time so that everyone here that wants to make comment or joining us by live stream has an opportunity to speak. Your role is to speak if you wish, and also when you're not speaking, or if you choose not to speak, that you listen respectfully. To capture every word in transcript form, so verbatim, we are capturing it by video, which will be a forever record of what happens here tonight. And we are capturing it through note taking, which will happen tonight as well. And we'll be putting together a report of key findings for all 12 sessions.
So, as Jane mentioned, there will be key put into a report. There will also be a random sampling of a survey will go out to a random number of people fill out. But if you do not get a survey and want to still provide information by survey, you can go online and get the survey. Also, please know that each meeting has its own email address. And you can also email any comments that you may have. If you spoke tonight and you think that there's something else you'd like to add, you can do that. The website is Speak Up VB, City of Virginia Beach, Virginia. It's at publicinput.com. Also, you can leave a voicemail on the project website at 855-925-2801. And if you have an issue that's separate from the elections processes here in Virginia Beach, you can email J Torres, that's JTORRES, at vbgov.com. There, after tonight, after all the listening sessions, there will be a report from the legal team with options for the City Council to consider in conjunction with the key findings of the report. The consideration for City Council is planned to be later this summer. Just wanted to also applaud Virginia Beach on this comprehensive process where there's 12 hearings, also having virtual listening sessions as well. It's, I think, very comprehensive, and I think it says a lot. So what's going to happen tonight is all about you. It's about your input, your thoughts, your concerns about the elections here in Virginia and the processes. But first, we're going to show you a short video prepared by the City of Virginia Beach, which gives us some of the history. Says a lot. So what's going to happen tonight? It's all about you.
Prior to 2022, our local election system remained mostly unchanged since 1967. Find our local election system. 4 were chosen at large. Prior to 2022, our local election system remained mostly unchanged since 1967. The city charter defined our local election system as having 11 members. 4 were chosen at large with no residency requirement, including the mayor, and 7 more were elected at large, but had to reside within one of the former districts. The charter also stated that school board members would be elected in the same manner as their city council counterparts. In November 2017, a lawsuit was filed against the city. The suit alleged that the at-large system violated the Federal Voting Rights Act by diluting the voting power of minorities. Specifically, the plaintiffs contended that the former voting system diluted the voting strength of a coalition of Black, Hispanic, and Asian minority groups. The city defended the lawsuit, contending that no single minority group was large and compact enough to constitute a majority within a single voting district. The city also asserted that it was not reasonable to combine Black voters with Asian and Hispanic voters, since Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act did not authorize combining minority groups, and that the 3 minority groups specifically mentioned do not vote cohesively as one group. While the lawsuit was pending, the Virginia General Assembly considered and adopted legislation that would require changes to the election system, regardless of the outcome of the case. House Bill 2198 made it so that localities with district or ward-based residency requirements for members of a governing body must elect its members by the qualified members of that district or ward, and not by the locality at large. Further, House Bill 1890 and Senate Bill 1395, known as the Virginia Voting Rights Act, clarified that any at-large method of election shall not be imposed by the governing body in a manner that impairs the ability of a protected class to elect candidates of its choice or its ability to influence an election. Both pieces of legislation also apply to school boards. In March of 2021, the district court said that the city's voting system violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The court concluded that the coalition claims were legally permissible and that the minority groups specifically mentioned in the case were politically cohesive. The court prohibited the city from using the former system in any future elections. Following the March 2021 ruling of the district court, a special master created new election district maps for the city using data from the 2020 census, ensuring they were equally populated. They were drawn in a manner that, in the court's view, would allow a sufficient majority of minority populations to facilitate the election of minority groups' candidates of choice, including the creation of 3 minority opportunity districts. Under the new 10-1 system, 10 city council members and 10 school board members are elected from each of the districts. Only the mayor continues to be elected at large and can reside anywhere in the city. The city appealed the district court's decision to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. In July of 2022, a 3-judge panel ruled that the lower court erred in its decision and vacated the district court's decisions and remedy. This decision left the city free to consider options other than the 10-1 system in future elections. However, it was too late to effectively implement a new system in time for the November 2022 election cycle. In November of 2022, residents went to the polls and cast their votes for the city council and school board candidates of their choice using the 10-1 system that had been ordered by the district court. 161,753 ballots were cast, and the outcome was the election of the city's most diverse slate of representatives. Since the court order that implemented the 10-1 system is no longer in effect, and the former system of electing local representatives is still on the books in the city charter, it became apparent that City Council would need to formally adopt a new method in time for the 2024 elections. In order to ensure that residents had a say in the direction that City Council opts to pursue, they passed a resolution in December of 2022 to begin a community engagement campaign to educate and inform residents on what legally viable options are available for the city. Following the community engagement period, Virginia Beach residents will be asked to participate in a survey in April. A random sampling of residents will receive a survey in the mail. However, an online version will be available to all residents. with results shared with council and the community this summer. In conclusion, a decision on our election system must be made by City Council in time for the 2024 election. Thank you for joining us today. This is your opportunity to provide input on city policy development and decision-making.
I'd like to thank Virginia Beach for the production of that video. And now we're going to begin the input session. Let me tell you how that's going to work. Many of you may have noticed the microphone here when you came in. That's the mic that you'll speak into. Your name will be called if you signed up, and then the second person that will follow you, his name will be called to allow you to prepare to come up so that we use our time efficiently and allow the most amount of speakers. You're going to have 3 minutes. Each speaker for the last 8 sessions and then tonight all have 3 minutes. We have a signal that will go off at 2 minutes and 45 seconds, which will give you enough time to wrap up if you're running long. Many people have not needed the full 3 minutes. We are not here to answer questions tonight as facilitators, but City Council certainly would be more than happy to hear your questions. So feel free to put those into the input as well. And finally, this is important, and it's made our sessions run really well. We would appreciate it if there was no background noise or response to the speakers while they're speaking. It's distracting to them. It can be intimidating to other speakers, and it's very confusing for people listening live stream. We do have a way, however, for you to let us know that you appreciate or fully support what a speaker is saying. If you'll just raise your hand, we'll take count, and we will add that as emphasis to the speaker's point, whatever the speaker is saying at the time. So I think that concludes sort of our process, and now we'll start our input.
Good afternoon. Our first speaker is Matthias Telkamp. Next speaker will be Melissa Luxon.
From the start, 56 years ago, Virginia Beach has been suppressing voting rights. The city incorporated 2 years after the Civil Rights Act of '65. However, the debate over whether to use district or at-large voting to elect elected officials has been ongoing and brought to court multiple times. At-large voting has been the traditional method of electing officials in Virginia Beach. This system also allows voters to choose from a pool of candidates to fill all the open seats, regardless of where the candidates live or work. However, at-large voting has been criticized for not providing equal representation for all communities within the jurisdiction. On the other hand, district voting divides the jurisdiction into smaller geographic regions, and each region elects its own representative. District voting has gained popularity in recent years as it has ensured that every community within a jurisdiction has a voice in the political process. It also promotes diversity, elected officials, and makes it easier for candidates to campaign, connect with voters. In Virginia Beach, the debate over district versus at-large has been ongoing for many years, and those who support district voting argue that it provides better representation for all communities within Virginia Beach. By electing representatives from each district, every community can have a voice in the political process. They also argue that district voting promotes diversity in elected officials, and it makes it easier for candidates to campaign and connect with voters. On the other hand, at-large voting has been criticized for not providing equal representation for all communities within Virginia Beach by allowing candidates from any part of the city to run for office. At-large voting can lead to the majority group controlling the outcome of elections, while minority groups are left underrepresented. At-large voting also makes it harder for candidates to connect with voters in every community. In conclusion, the choice between district and at-large voting is an important one for Virginia Beach. While at-large voting may have worked in the past, It is time to progress towards a system that ensures that every community has a voice in the political process. District voting promotes diversity in elected officials, making it easier for candidates to connect with the voters and ensure that every community within Virginia Beach is represented. As we progress forward, we must continue to work towards a system that promotes fairness, equality, and ensures that every voice is heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our current speaker is Melissa Lukeson. Next speaker will be Sean Monteiro.
Oh, this is my 7th speech, I think, on this week. I've spent a lot of time here. I want to fill in some gaps that the city left out of its video presentation. In 1994, some residents challenged the citywide at-large system after 27 years of feeling underrepresented by city leadership. 28,000 signatures were collected, and they successfully forced the city to put a referendum on the ballot that year, and it passed. The people spoke, but the status quo was unhappy and blamed the citizens for not understanding the question. So they wrote a new referendum to be placed on the ballot in 1996 with ambiguous and deceptive language. They successfully overturned the results and subverted the will of 52.7% of the voters in 1994. As a result, we stayed in a citywide at-large voting system for another 26 years until a federal court judge ruled that the voting system that got them elected was unconstitutional, has been since inception, and required supervision to establish a new voting system to ensure fair representation. The power of 10 districts produced the youngest, most diverse council in the city's history, and there are some city leaders unhappy with that. Having 10 districts reduces the barrier of entry for public service. Suppose you want to run for office to make a difference in your community. In that case, it is now accessible financially and physically because districts are much smaller and you can get out and meet constituents and knock on their doors. The candidate that won in November raised just under $21,000 in District 10, while her opponent raised $180,000. Why do you think an organization donates $50,000 to a candidate a week before the election? When a business like Priority Automotive donates $10,000, what do they expect from a candidate if elected? Last year, a different local car dealer needed support from council to approve their conditional use permit. They faced a lot of opposition because they were cutting down one of the last 100-year-old stands of trees in Windsor Woods to pave it for a parking lot. Windsor Woods is a community that had historic flooding, like other areas of the city, which resulted in a major overhaul in our flood mitigation practices. Unfortunately, developers and special interests have been doing this to our city for decades, paving paradise to put in parking lots. This is one example of thousands. They do not truly, when candidates take large campaign donations, they do not truly represent the interests of the people in their district. When you don't have representation, your community suffers. Elections matter. The 10-1 system is the only way to fair, balanced representation for our city. Councilwoman Rouse has strongly supported the 10-1 district system, and her efforts to help move this city into the 21st century are very appreciated. The city does not have to do a ballot referendum. They
15
don't.
seconds.
They want to, and we need to make it very clear, we want them to codify the judge's decisions by changing our city charter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker is Sean Monteiro. Speaker will be Tammy Mullins Rice.
Hey, good evening or good afternoon, everybody. Just wanted to say, first off, I'm definitely no for this referendum. It's a waste of time. We have a system that directly represents us. That's something that America fought for, was direct representation. And this system, the 10-1 system, is the best one that we got going for us. I don't want to have somebody from the beach going ahead and voting for what's going on in my community or representing me what's going on in my community in the Glenwood area in District 2, which abuts with Districts 10 and 7, which I think we all have representation here for that. At large is just another way of saying that we're going to dilute vote and go ahead in charge of creating some sort of super ward that will essentially go ahead and take away that direct representation that we deserve. All right, that's plain and simple. Once again, for direct representation, I want to make sure that this referendum gets killed before we even start, and we continue to proceed on with what has turned out to produce the most diverse, youngest, most intellectually diverse, and group of individuals that are representing us. I look forward to see what this city can continue to do under direct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker is Tammy Mullins Rice. Next speaker will be Maurice Hawkins.
Good afternoon. I'm here representing the CTAC community, and what I have to say is that I feel like all of this has been such a total waste of taxpayers' money because we're doing the right thing by having representation in our districts. That's what our Constitution is all about. I've lived here for 27 years. In the time that I've been here, we've had a representative in the old beach district that never came to see what anything went on in our community because he didn't have to, because he was voted on by the whole city and not by the people who live there. We now have representatives that come to our neighborhood, that know us, that show up for our churches, our events, and not just someone who's just showing up because it's election year, trying to get our votes at church. Yeah, we don't need that anymore. We need representation in our communities. We're taxpayers. We're not idiots. And the fact that you're acting like we have to have a session to explain to us and educate us on the Constitution is ridiculous. I've been voting since I was 18 years old. At my high school graduation, our speaker was the late Honorable Perrin J. Mitchell, one of the original members, founding members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And what he said to us at that graduation was that as young voters paying attention to what's happening in our community, told us we didn't have to worry about people outside wearing sheets. He said we had to worry about the ones in three-piece suits on Capitol Hill, in the governor's house, and in our local city legislature. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to vote for people who are going to represent us in a 10-1 system.
Thank you.
Speaker is Maurice Hawkins. And next speaker will be Tricia Thieber.
Good afternoon. My name is Maurice Hawkins, and I'm a resident of District 10. And I'm very proud that District 10 elected Jennifer Rouse as our councilwoman here in the city of Virginia Beach. Here in the United States, there's a clear battle against diversity, equity. We realize that all politics is local, and that the response of the city of Virginia Beach was after we elected the most diverse and youngest members of council was to use some kind of obfuscation of language to suggest that we need to go back to a draconian mode of voting is simply absurd, okay? City council makes decisions on how resources are allotted and allocated throughout the city, from public schools, safety, from infrastructure and investment. Everyone knows that in this city, there are corporate interests that want to consolidate resources, wealth, and political power with the few, and only the few benefit from the bounty and blessings of the city of Virginia Beach. So any effort to deviate from the 10-1 district system is an effort to go back in time and to a period of time where it goes against the nature of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, okay? So Virginia Beach is on the front lines in the Commonwealth of Virginia in a struggle to keep the voices of diverse communities oppressed. Virginia Beach is the front lines of an effort to ensure that people who want to realize the American dream, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is prevented. We have to stop that. There's no reason to go back in time. We need to stick with this system because, as my colleague stated earlier this evening, if a local person that lives in the district wants to run for office, they don't have to be a millionaire. They can be a firefighter, they can be a school teacher, they can be a small business owner, they can be a regular person, work their community, the shoe leather on the streets, get your votes out, and get on city council. Jennifer Rouse is a regular person. She works every day, and she won her election. That's the kind of representation that is diverse, equitable, and with inclusion. That's what we need, and we want this, if we truly want Virginia Beach to be a world-class city, we must stick with the 10-1 system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker is Patricia Thiebert. The next speaker will be Tracy Sanford.
To the council that are now. If we had had a large system, we would not have been able to do that because all the little buddies from a different district would have been voting for the ones that were still in there. And the council that we have now is willing to listen to the city workers, to the citizens. They, you know, we need to stay with the 10-1 so that we are every district represented by somebody who actually cares about us. And we still need to keep the council that we have because they care about the workers. You know, we're trying for collective bargaining and they are working hard with us. And the workers need that so that we can have a seat at the table. But we definitely, we can't go back to the at-large because then we'll have the good old boy system back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Current speaker is Tracy Sanford. Next speaker will be Charles Brown.
Really have anything prepared, but I'd like to thank Melissa Lucasen for illuminating how we got here or didn't get here in the first place, about how we were bamboozled in '94, even though you signed that petition outside the libraries where they were collecting. And they only said, oh, you just have to live there, but we're still voting out large. And here's the reason. I've seen it work all kinds of different ways. At large, districts, boroughs, and it depends on the community. But for this community, an at-large is not going to work because this city is way too diverse. And for way too long, me in Green Run, I haven't had representation. I've had people who've moved in there at the behest of other people until Jennifer Rouse came along. I would like to keep representation that reflects my family's values. And I would like to keep it without having to wade through a ballot that's 10 miles long that coincides with the national election when you have to think about, well, am I going to vote for council? And oh my gosh, there's half of the at-large up and I have to think about them too. And oh, by the way, you could vote for all of them, all of them. So by the time you got to the end of the ballot where they were, you were tired. You were too tired to think about city council. You were too tired to think about school board and what the tax rate was going to be and what your kids were going to learn and who's going to ban a book. Okay? This is why we need a 10-1 system, and this referendum is just, quite frankly, a bunch of mishegas. Okay? It needs to go away. It's a non-binding referendum. They don't even have to listen to the outcome, but they have to listen to you, and they have to listen to when you show up, and they have to listen when you tell your friends, your family, to contact the city, to go through this process, because, and answer the survey when they send it out, because everybody needs to get on board, because until they hear our voices, hear our feet, they're never going to know.
Current speaker is Charles Brown, and next speaker, George Okati.
Everyone, but I want to echo what one of the previous speakers said, is that they don't have to do this. They don't have to do this referendum. Some of the council members were contacted after the election and were pushed by some of their buddies, some of their constituents to do so that they could undo the historical results that we see before us now. And I think we need to call this the farce that it is, acknowledge it, and call them out. I think it's safe to say that regardless of the resounding pushback that is being put forth, and I've watched every hearing had thus far up until now, and it's been overwhelmingly pushback against this referendum, saying that we want to keep the 10-1 system and keep the diversity that we have. The city is 60 years old, founded in 1963, and up until last year, there had only been a maximum of about 2 Black council members on council for every year. And for most of that time, there were no Black members on the city council. This year, 2023, we have 4 African-American council members on the city council, which is historic. And I think it's safe to say that there are council members and members of the community who don't like that and who want to see us go backwards, as previous speakers have said. From the worker standpoint, whether you're a teacher, you're a city worker, firefighter, what may have you, it also comes down to how much you're going to make, how you're treated on the job, and it comes down to how school board is going to function as well as the city council. We have to acknowledge that, again, this is about trying to mute the voices of disenfranchised. We know that this is a good old boy system to a large degree, and we have to call it what it is, and I think we need to stop playing nice and pretending that this referendum is anything but the farce that is. So pushing to support city workers across the board, support our teachers, and support people that really put the work in on the ground, because at the end of the day, we are in a system now where regular folks can actually run for office and can actually win. Folks like Ms. Rouse, who is in council right now, who's actually doing the will of the people. So I want to thank you for your time. And again, support the 10-to-1, keep it in place. And if they do try to subvert the will of the people, because I have a strong feeling that they are going to try to use some excuse to try to go backwards anyway, even though from what I've heard from all the other hearings, no one has been coming to get up and saying that they want to go backwards.
15 seconds.
And that I yield back. Thank you.
Current speaker is George Okati, and then the next speaker will be
My name is George Okati. I live in Council District 6. I'm also an officer of our local civic league. I think the 2 primary issues that with the 10-1 system or system. First is accountability. The at-large system dilutes the authority and the responsibility of every person in this community. The accountability can only be held if your representative could be challenged in your district for the way they vote. Secondly, special interests. Special interests will control what is going on in the city because they can dilute the voting districts. Those are the 2 areas that need to be addressed. The 10-1 system ensures that all communities, all civic leagues, all people are heard within their areas. Thank you.
speaker is Ella Dunbar. Speaker will be
Good evening. So I think I've told you all before about how I feel about the underserved communities that haven't been represented, city council and elsewhere. And there are repercussions to having underserved communities. So while I've talked to you before about not having paved streets in my neighborhood, not having city water in my neighborhood, not having indoor plumbing in my neighborhood, neglect can also cost you your life, your property. And I thought about it this morning that there was a house fire. My father's house burned off of Old Great Neck Road. And there was not a fire hydrant nearby. So the fire department came, they went back the street, but then they had to try to run out, I don't know how far, to find an actual fire hydrant to address the fire. So my father and my younger brothers, who still lived at home, were out of the house for a while they had to take care of the house that was basically gutted on the inside and rebuild. So, and I think that the city council needs to be in touch with the community. We just, settled on a memorial for victims of a mass shooting here at the city of Virginia Beach. But in January of 2020, our city council felt the need to entertain a motion to make this a, what was it, oh gosh, having a brain freeze, a legislative county or whatever it was, but I can't remember the name, a constitutional city, excuse me, which really was just a little nod to the gun folks. And so you got a city that was traumatized, but they decide to make sure to tell Richmond that we're a constitutional city. People who carry guns have the right to carry what they carry generally, and they know what their rights are. But to me, it's like piling on, and you've really kind of lost your mind when you have people that are that upset and still are. I went to school. I was a classmate with the sister of one of the victims from that shooting. So we need people to be more accountable. They need to live in my district.
15
So we
seconds.
need that 10-1 system. And you need to be able to, and with regard to the elections, maybe you don't want to, with the 10-1 system, you're not going to have that real long ballot that you were concerned about. So if you align our elections a lot for city council along with the national election, then you only got to vote for the mayor and who's for your district. Thank you.
Thank
Speaker is Aline Gross. Speaker is Terry Green. And our current speaker is Terry Green.
My name is Terry Green, and I'm water distribution for the city of Virginia. I guess we're here because we want that 10-1 system, because our voices not being heard. It's just like a city employee. Our voice is not being heard. Now we have elected people that's, since we changed this system, that's listening. If we go back to the old system, it's just like a scam. Bruce Thompson, the big wheel down there will have his way. He can get more millions out of the city to finish all his projects. Stop this. A lot of money needs to go back into the community. Not only the community, we need to start treating the city employees. We are in the need now of doing a collective bargaining. Join us, rally with us. Let us show them we need collective bargaining for our.
So that concludes the list of registered speakers. I do see that there is one individual connected to the phone line, but they have not requested to speak. To that individual, I'd say if you do wish to have your voice heard, please press star and select menu item 3. Now I have no additional speakers.
We do have a little time. Does anyone else like to speak who has not registered? Yes, sir. If you could come into the mic then. Just please state your name before speaking.
Good evening. My name is Carl Wright. I live in District 3. And this is my 8th meeting for this 10-1 system. That's how important it is to me. Because I've been in Virginia Beach without an representation for a long time. And like the gentleman said, I've said this before, this is about accountability. If you don't get this 10-1 system in place, you will never get another opportunity. I guarantee you. This puts you citizens in the driver's seat, okay? Don't let them people hoodwink you. I want you to go to your site. There's one woman up there that's been up there for 10 terms. 10. How long those terms last? 4 years apiece. Now do the math. Now, most people don't even want to stay on a job that long. 10 terms. And don't even know who she is or what she's done for the city. My issue here is that your representative now has to educate you in order to get your support. These folk make you think that you work for them. No, they ask you for your vote. You give them your vote, hear me? And make them earn your vote. You go downtown, they look at you like they all, I voted for you, you vote for me. Take your power back. This 10-1 system does that, accountability. And I'm just one of those people that ain't personal. If you get on city council, we can't get you to do anything. It's just like you running a business. It's not personal. I need someone that can do the job. 48 months. Can't do the job. You, but no thank you. Simple as that. It's not complicated. Keep going down there and ask them to vote for something. I'll think about it. I'll wonder about it. I wish I could if I can. We want you to do it. If you can't do it, we'll find someone that can. I've been doing this a long time. It's that simple. It's not difficult. I love it when it comes to election time. Because see, when they need my vote, all of a sudden I can get it done for you. I can get it done for you. You can? Well, you didn't get it done the last 4 to 8 months, guess what? I think we're going to find somebody else to do. And I know it's someone in the community that can get that done. Don't be hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok. Don't let them do none of that.
15 seconds.
Okay? What you do is give them opportunity, get up there, if they do what they say they're going to do, then that's fine. But, you know, I don't want to do, some of them think we fools.
Time.
But they think we damn fools. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? There's no one. Oh, I want to thank everybody. I just want to again summarize that there will be key findings provided to the city council. Key findings will be considered by options. They're provided by legal counsel to the city council. Remember that you can access a survey on the website. If there are any questions, there's also a telephone number. It's also listed on the website. We ask that everybody spread the word. There are still some hearings coming up. I believe there's one tomorrow that's actually virtual as well. Coming in, Jane, did you have anything else to add? Safely. Oh, yes, Councilwoman.
Proponent and supporter of the 10-1 system for a lot of reasons that have been mentioned here tonight. But in order for this to be representative, we have to reflect the will of the public, which means that you all, as you have been engaging, please bring in more people to participate in these sessions virtually, and also communicating through, if you get the survey mailed to you, please complete it, or you can complete this online. Other ways to get involved, what I learned, I want to pass it on. I only have 10 of these. These are the city council appointed agencies. So some of you may know about the boards and commissions in the city of Virginia Beach, and that's a really powerful tool. They're a bunch of volunteer but council appointed bodies that they meet monthly, and their input often guides the direction and decision making of city council. And any resident in Virginia Beach can apply to be a part of those boards and commissions. So just as, there's effort to diversify the city council, I would love to see effort to diversify these boards and commissions as well. And so I think only 10 of these booklets that describe the different boards, like what they are, and if you're interested, how to apply. I'll also give you my city cell phone number. It's 757-840-1821. And if you text me, I'll also text you back the website with these boards and commissions and the link to what's called a talent bank application. So you complete that talent bank application, and then your name goes into a pool of people that when we go to make these appointments, you could be considered, because you have to submit a talent bank before you actually can be appointed. Now that we're moving to district systems, at present, this is our current voting structure.
a lot of the boards are appointed on a district basis. So, your district rep would advocate for you, or if you know other council members who could try to nudge your district rep to advocate for you, that might be another workaround. But I wanted to make y'all aware of other ways to get engaged in decision-making in our city. So sign up for these boards and commissions, put your talent bank in, and if you live in District 10, we're having a community meeting on Monday, April 17th at Green Run High School from 6:30 to 8 o'clock, and I have handouts if you want to take those as well.
So much. Careful of driving tonight. Thank you.